a little bit tonight on emotions. We've talked about emotions before, but I think in the past Zooms, we've talked about that it's like peeling layers back on an onion. You have to do work, and it doesn't just happen like that. Usually whatever emotional issues that you're dealing with didn't happen overnight, and they're not going to be undone overnight. And so you peel back layers of the onion, and tonight we're just diving into another one of those layers. So I'm going to mute, and I'm going to pass it over to Brianna, and she's going to take it.
Hello, hello. All right, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Brianna Rehrman, and I'm really excited and thankful to be able to open this tonight. This is a big deal, like a big puke and rally moment for me, because this is lots of people not in my team. I'm super great one-on-one, but this is like a moment. So lots of emotions attached to this, right? I am from Western Oklahoma. I'm a wife. I'm a mama to 4. My 2 oldest sons are my bonus boys from my husband's first marriage. So I'm also a co-parent, 2 teenage boys, like I said, 2 younger ones. I homeschool. There'll be lots of emotions up in my house, y'all. Okay. So we started using oils about 8 years ago, strictly for immune support. Like that is why I got started. That was it. That was the only thing that I knew oils offered. And that's why I started, and it worked beautifully. And so we pretty much got that program down, knew what we were doing. And over the course of the past several years have really just dove into oils for emotions and the emotional side of things. And I also grew up in a home that was full of really big emotions. My grandfather's a psychiatrist. My mother was raised by him, very introspective, very in tune with her emotions, and lots of big emotions in my house, which actually made me run the opposite direction for a long time and not want to dig into my own emotions, my own feelings. And so this world of oils has truly just been a gateway and opened up a whole level of support with tools like our oils, emotion code, which is something that we can talk about later, aroma freedom technique, the technique Pam is going to talk about, EMDR. It has just been a wonderful platform to kind of dive into this world of dealing with and moving through emotions. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about like, what is an emotion, right? It's literally the experience of energy moving through your body, right? So it's a sensation of contraction. If you are tense, if you are feeling, you have the emotion of like tense, the feeling of tense, can you feel that in your body? Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your shoulders? What about if you're angry? Do you feel it in your belly? Is it in your throat? You can physically feel those emotions, right? How about when you're happy? Do you feel light? Do you feel, just free? I mean, we can feel emotions, right? It's the experience of that energy moving through our body. So an upward spiral of emotion correlates with happy feelings like joy and peace. And then a downward spiral of emotion is like fear or resentment. And the Latin derivative of emotion, emote, however you want to say it, I don't know how to say it, one of those, but it literally means energy in motion, right? So everything is energy. Everything has a frequency, right? So our emotion serves as the carrier waves for the entire spectrum of our feelings, right? Like I said, they're vibrating or emitting certain energetic frequencies when we feel them. And that's why we can physically feel them. So understanding that emotions are in fact energy really implies that they're fluid, right? They're moving resources that are meant to be felt and released, not suppressed and ignored. And if we cannot process them correctly, then they are stored in our body, right? So in our organs, in our glands, in our different systems that are vibrating at the same energetic frequency of the emotion that we're feeling. So what happens when we suppress emotions? So here's some examples. People who have unprocessed grief often have recurring issues with their lungs, lung infections. People with unprocessed anger often find that their liver function is impaired. Those that deal with fear may find that they have issues in their bladder or their kidneys, because like we said, everything holds a frequency. Your thoughts, emotions, feelings, words, oils, rocks, everything is frequency. And your body will store those negative emotions if you're not releasing them. And that's when we see that's when we see disease occur. It's when your body's vibrational frequency drops below a certain point. Okay, it's vibrational discourse in your body. Those emotions are stored and trapped, and they are vibrating at a frequency that is unharmonious with your body. Then you're going to see negative impacts. And you are going to most likely end up feeling them physically as well. So a few more interesting tips or interesting facts that I found were that we have an emotional brain and an analytical brain. Your emotional brain responds faster to incoming information than your analytical brain does. Your emotional brain has more circuits that are connected to your analytical brain than your analytical brain does back to your emotional brain. Your emotional brain is connected to every single area of your brain. Your analytical brain is not. So really, your emotional brain has executive power, right? And it influences all of the decision-making, your thought process, your memories, and your present experiences. Your emotional brain is incredibly powerful. And often, this is surprising for a lot of people, but most of our feelings from day to day, when we're encountering situations, they're likely not responses to actually what we are facing or encountering right now. Really, they're most likely originating from programming in our cellular memory that was imprinted by emotional experiences of our past that we were unable to understand, process, and resolve. We're stuck. Have you ever had that feeling where somebody behaves a certain way around you and you just like automatically have a response, a reaction, and you like want to do different or want to be better, but you're stuck in an emotion and you can't move past it? That's because you have programmed cellular memory from long ago that has never been processed through and dealt with. So really, our ability to understand, deal with, and effectively use your emotional energy is really vital to your happiness. And I am super happy to pass it over to Pam now so she can give you some further in-depth information on how to use oils and work through emotions.
Sweet. Thanks, Bree. That was fabulous. I had actually never heard the analytical brain and the emotional brain spoken to that way, but it makes perfect sense. So my name is Pam Kroll. I'm super excited to be here talking about something that I'm really passionate about. A lot of, Bree, what you talked about, the frequency of everything. I am a mom to 3 girls. I'm a wife. I'm an oils lover. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a conscious parenting coach. We homeschool. And I'm kind of one of those people who's always geeking out on the path of transformation and growth. So frequency and emotions and trauma and like getting rid of the past has been a big just journey of mine in this life. So this is a topic I love to talk about. And what I'm going to go through tonight is we're going to talk about what the Freedom Sleep Release Kit is and why it was made. We're going to talk about stored emotions. Bree touched on that a bit, about our organs and the frequency they hold and past emotions and if things get stuck. So we're going to talk about stored emotions and trauma and how that also affects DNA and our cells. And then tonight I'm going to close with 3 reasons truly why I believe this collection I'm going to talk about can benefit anyone. And then when we go underground, I'm really excited to share just some personal testimony that really is awesome. Like that's the word I'll use. It's awesome and amazing. So I love talking about these oils in this kit because of the profound changes they made in my family. So what is this kit that we are talking about? Because it's really this is a tool. There are many tools out there, like you said, Bree, EMDR, using essential oils. There is meditation and yoga. They're all forms of healing modalities. And this is one of them. This is a really incredible tool. And what it is it's a collection of 9 oil blends. One of them is called, let's see if you can see that, Freedom Release. And this one comes with 5 oils in it. And then one is called Freedom Sleep, but they both come together, and there are 4 oils in this one. And the story is Gary Young was meeting with some Iraqi war vets, and they were experiencing such severe, intense post-traumatic stress disorder. And they were being given very expensive, over $2,000 medications every month to pay, to try to help them sleep, to try to help ease the anxiety, and they weren't working. And so he was in conversation with multiple vets from the war, and he realized like there was a real need. And this is something, if you've heard stories about Gary Young, the man had a real love for meeting a need and a purpose. And so he created this collection of oils originally to support war veterans coming home and releasing some of the trauma they were experiencing, helping them get some sleep, helping them deal with the anxiety that came with like trying to reintegrate back into the world here after being in a war zone. He created this collection to help them be in the present moment, as opposed to being like hearing a noise while they're driving their car, or being in the grocery store and being activated, right? Getting triggered and responding from a place when they were back in survival mode, when really they're just at the grocery store. So he created this collection to support these. And how perfect is it, right? It's Veterans Day. So I kind of love the timing of all this. That's why this collection was made, to support these vets. And the reality is he made it, he started handing it over, and they had amazing results. Like there's a story of a few vets who really hadn't slept more than a few hours at a time for months. I mean, imagine just months. And then they were back home. They started these oils, and some of them within 3 and 4 nights of applying these oils were sleeping 5 to 8 hours a night. And by like the 5th day of applying these oils, they were sleeping 8 hours a night. Like they hadn't slept well in months, like interrupted sleep, nightmares. It was all calming down, going away. They found they were able to deal with their anxiety and their anger and the real reactive part of them coming back from the war. And so the results were so amazing. There was kind of this aha moment. Wait a minute, how many other people could this help? What if we like open this up to anybody who wants to release trauma, to release, deep down unconscious layers of stuff that's disturbing, our well-being and our best life, as I like to say. So that's sort of the story behind how this collection was made. And like I said, the results were so amazing. They really, truly opened the kit up to, to anyone who wanted support in releasing emotions, because it affects everything. Like, Bree mentioned, I'm going to be talking about that later on when we talk about stored emotion and trauma in the body. It affects our immune system. It affects our mental health. I mean, it affects so many layers. So I have notes, so I'm going to keep myself on track and just make sure. So the kit is, so there was 2 boxes I showed you. And just to give a really quick overview, this is a 60-day protocol. The first 30 days, you're using what's called the Freedom Release. And then the next 30 days, you're using the Freedom Sleep oils. So it's a 60-day protocol. No joke, because I've done this protocol. It takes maybe 1 to 2 minutes in the morning and 1 to 2 minutes at night to do this. And the results that people have are so amazing. Like it's such a small action on our part with such powerful, impactful change. So it doesn't take a lot, and they're, like I said, 9 oils. They recommend each, there's very specific steps. Everything Gary Young did was very intentional. So he walks you through in each collection, each little box, put this oil here, put 2 drops there, so it walks you through. Everything has a reason. Everything has a purpose. Everything has an intention. I like to joke with some people when they're doing it and they're kind of like, well, I didn't really stay on track with it. And I was like, well, just notice your resistance too, right? Because resistance, sometimes we resist when we're about to go through a big change, or we're about to let go of an identification we've had with ourselves. And so again, like I highly recommend doing the full 60 days if you can, with following the steps if you're intrigued with this, because I really think you'll get the absolute most out of it. Because like anything, we talk about this a lot in our oils communities, consistency. That's whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to make mental mindset changes, consistency is the essence of getting the results you want. All right, let me just make sure I'm staying on track here. So overall, it really was this was a protocol created to release and let go truly on the cellular level of trauma and deep holding. So, and I feel pretty comfortable sharing this on the recording, but it really is, this to me is a powerful way to support your heart, like your inner being, your inner well-being, to really allow yourself to release some of the barriers and the trauma and the hurt that we all have and we all walk around with, and really come back to the truth of who you are. And like, don't we all want to live that? I mean, I want to live that way. Like, I want to live my best life. I want to live the truest version of myself. So that kind of completes the what it is and why it was made. I'm really excited to drop into stored trauma and the DNA response and how that impacts our overall wellness. And Sarah, I'll let you know, but at some point I will ask for a screen share if I don't already have that access, but I'm not there yet. So when we talk about stored trauma, so I think we all know this, but trauma can dampen us, right? It can hold us back. It can really create a barrier between our heart and our light within and others and how we go out in the world. Like, trauma can dampen us. It's often the only part of the trauma that we are in control of, truly, is what we do with it when we're adults. I know a lot of us probably went through whatever we went through in our childhood, and that is where we start accumulating. Like Bree said, if we don't allow it to be felt, it's just energy, and to release, it gets stored. And a lot of commonly accepted ways to deal with trauma, unfortunately, in our culture is to deny it, to stuff it, to store it. And so, we're here to kind of be the change we want to see in the world. And so that means we get to allow it a space to be felt, allow it a space to be acknowledged, allow it a space to be moved, because it's just energy, and then it doesn't get stuck places. So seeking support and ways to release emotions, but also go back in and release the original barriers and the original hurt, is a really powerful way, I believe, to really align us fully with why we're here on this planet right now. Who we are and what we're here to bring to the world and to our relationships. Because when we can bring our full self, everybody benefits, everybody. All right, so fun fact time. Now we get a little sciencey here for you, which is saying a lot for me because I'm much more of the feelings type experience person. But I'm going to get sciencey on you. So here's a quote. Research at the New York University proved the amygdala, which is the gland in your limbic system of the brain that stores and releases trauma in the body, does not, and I'm going to say that again, does not, trauma stored in your brain does not respond to sound, sight, or touch, but only releases emotional trauma through the sense of smell. So I did not know that until maybe a year or two ago. If you did not know that until tonight, feel free to raise your hand, drop a heart or something in the comments. Like, that's big. Like, not able to release trauma unless it's through the sense of smell. So, and I'm actually have some slides that show the limbic system, so you'll really get to see it. But basically, the emotional center of the brain can only respond to the sense of smell when releasing stored trauma and emotions. So you can imagine the amazing positive impact essential oils can have on releasing stored trauma. I mean, it's right there in the research. Another cool thing is, some people do know this, but a lot of times we can smell an oil, we can smell a flower, we can walk into a store and we smell something and we're like, oh, I don't like that. And that is often because we have a negative connection, a negative emotion stored, a negative memory stored in connection to that smell. It's the same thing as when we smell cinnamon maybe in the fall and we think of like apple pie baking in the oven. It's the same thing. We have a positive memory. So just know that when you smell, say, an oil and you don't like the smell of it, it often can mean you have it can support you emotionally. And over time, as you work to clear and release these connections and these, triggers, these pain inside, you may find that something that didn't once smell good now smells good to you again, because you don't have that stored emotional response to it. So fun things. I'm going to move into the slides in just a second, but I wanted to share some other fun facts for those of you who don't know essential oils. When you smell them, within 3 to 5 seconds, it has reached your limbic system in your brain. Your limbic system, they said, is the emotional center of your brain. Guess what else? It's where memory is stored, and it is also where fight, flight, or freeze response activates. So you can imagine, even like for me as a mom, I reach for these things when I'm about to lose my cool, because I'm like, wait, mama doesn't want to go there. So let me pause. Let me smell and calm my fight, flight, or freeze response so that I can show up, like present instead of in reaction, or in history too, right? We don't want to react from history. So that's a cool fact about smell. Also, when you smell an oil, within 20 minutes, it's feeding every cell in your body from smelling it. Really cool fact, you can put it on your skin topically. Within 26 seconds of doing that, it's in your bloodstream. It's feeding your whole entire bloodstream with whatever the benefits of that oil. And within 20 minutes of applying it topically and smelling it, it has reached every cell in your body. Why does that matter? Crazy cool fact about essential oils. They have the ability, and this may have been discussed many times here, to permeate cell walls, to permeate the cell membrane. And what that means is that that essential oil and that plant can actually go in and support us on the cellular level. It can support the release and the flush of toxins. It can support the release and flush of emotions and history. And it can also support the intake of more nutrients and more support for like every level of our cells. Like, not everything can do that. That is an amazing thing about essential oils that makes them very unique in our personal journey to wellness. So love those facts. And I am going to share some slides now. Let me just find my screen share. Okay. Bear with me, y'all, as I'm not always the best techie person, but I'm stretching myself. So just, we just talked about the power of the nose and the sense of smell. It works 24 hours a day, unlike the other senses that can be switched off. And 75% of daily emotions are influenced by our sense of smell. Plays an important part in memory. Obviously, we've already talked about that. Sense of smell is 10,000 times stronger than the other senses. And it's the only way to immediately, we just talked about that, access the limbic system, which is the emotional center of the brain, which is also the only way we can release stored trauma and emotion. Here's just a lovely little visual. You can see the flower, you intake the smell, it actually can access the amygdala, the limbic system, but it gives you kind of a fun little visual of how not everything can get in there and access that, but it's the olfactory bulb that allows that scent and the powers of essential oils and plants to get in there and support our well-being. So another thing that gets impacted, so we've been talking about stress and trauma and how it impacts, right, the limbic system. It also impacts the vagus nerve, which plays a huge role in our body's well-being and in our mental and emotional well-being. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. So the vagus nerve affects the body's stress response. Here's a visual of the vagus nerve, right? It goes straight from the brain down through the spinal cord into some of the core key internal organs and right into the gut, which means, I'll share this next screen, it's known as the brain gut axis. So if we are dealing with excess stress, it is impacting our brain, our mental clarity, it's impacting our gut, our immune function, it's impacting our sleep. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And like Bree said, when we store emotions, they can be stored in different organs of the heart. And I can speak to like having been trained in energy healing. I have found that working with people that sometimes my hands are just stuck on their liver because it's just so full, or the kidneys or something. And there's so much either anger or fear that needs to move. And once they do, there's so much more freedom in the overall space for people. All right. Here's where we get really like, oh my gosh. Stress and trauma creates markers on our DNA, tells our genes to turn on and off, but not always in relation to our current circumstance, but as if we were living in very stressful conditions, traumatic conditions even. And so we talk about this a lot too, I feel like in these great classes about sometimes our fight, flight, or freeze is on way overactive, on high, our adrenals are just like, ring, 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 ring. This is another indicator too at the cellular level where stress and trauma can be impacting us in a moment that really isn't that big a deal. And especially like those vets, that is a lot of what they were dealing with. The reaction doesn't match the content of the moment, but that's stress can really impact the body on so many deep levels. Changes made to DNA by stress and trauma can then be passed on to future generations, changing how inherited DNA is read by future generations without actually changing the genes. And what that basically is called, or is we can have generational trauma passed on. Like, I know this may not be the first time for some of you hearing this, and it may be the first time for some of you hearing this. It can be passed on through the DNA and impact future generations. What's not healed in one can get passed on through the DNA. And to me, this is like mind-blowing stuff. And then the last slide I have is this is known as intergenerational trauma, lineage trauma, inherited trauma, generational trauma. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And I just have a couple more key points. I'm trying to find my lovely notes. So I said that I'd close this out with 3 reasons why I really believe everyone can benefit from this kit and this collection and these tools to release. And that is like the number 1 reason I think everyone can benefit from this is what we just talked about, which is generational healing is up to you. It's up to me. It's up to us. Like, if we want to stop the trauma from passing from one generation to the next, it is up to us to do our work. It is up to us to face some of this stuff. It is up to us to do the therapy work, do the EMDR, do the emotional healing, get the emotion code sessions, like talk to a therapist, like all these pieces choose to be different in a moment. Smell an oil when you're about to, like I do, freak out as a mom, because I don't want to freak out. I was raised in a house where there was freak out. It totally created anxiety, stress, and like tension in my body. I don't want to pass that on to my kids. So it is up to me to do my work. So anyways, that's my number 1 reason I think everyone can benefit from it, is generational healing really is up to us and our kids. If you're a parent, your kids will thank you so much for the work you do. I will share that next, but my kids have actually had pretty powerful conversations with my husband and I about the work we've been willing to do the last 5 years. Number 2 reason why I think everyone can benefit from this is we all have trauma. We all do. We all have pain. We all have wounding. We all have hurt. We, like, some of us experienced extreme abuse and trauma, and some of us experienced it, but it welled up inside of us and we didn't have a support system to process through it. It's okay that we all have trauma and we all have hurt, but this is a beautiful reason to do work on the cellular unconscious level that can be really hard to attain sometimes. And this is a way to support that. And the truth is, trauma in our history, if not healed, unconsciously impacts almost every thought we have, every decision we make, every step we take or don't take in our life. And so my last one, I'm going to speak because that is a powerful reason, number 2, I believe. But the 3rd reason and the last reason I'll share is you're worth it. You are so worth your best life. You are worth your inner well-being. You are worth your light shining out to the world. Like, your freedom is worth so much. And these essential oils have the ability to support the release of really old, trapped emotions and stories and hurt, and get you to a level of freedom and and enjoying your life in the present moment and not being in reaction or response from history, but being here right now, right here in your life, and allowing your gifts to shine forth instead of letting the trauma guide what you do, what you think, what you say. You are worth it. So with that said, I'm complete. And Sarah, I'm not sure what's next, or Bree, or